Thank you, Gurudal Prabhu, for the wonderful Vaishnav Bhajan. We just read Shri Nam, the Gitavali by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So we learned today, Grihe Thako, Vane Thako, Sada Hari Bole Thako. Sukhe Dukhe Bhule Nako, Vadane Hari Nam Korore. Jai. Thank you, Prabhu. So we will start our Srimad Bhagavatam, the study of Srimad Bhagavatam on our Sravanam Saturday. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Vanachari Jamuna Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Radha Natavara Shri Radhe Jaya Radha Natavara Radha Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya 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 Jai. Thank you, Prabhus. So, today we are going to continue to read from Canto 1, Chapter 13 and text 51 onwards. So, just to recap, so far what this chapter has explained or described is that first, how to welcome pure devotees, like how Yudhishthir Maharaj is welcoming, Vidura, the Narad Muni, and these are the pure devotees of the Lord. So how are they welcoming them to their kingdom or to their homes? And secondly, the second thing that this chapter explains is Hari Bol, Hare Krishna. So second thing, I was just doing the recap that what this chapter is explaining. So first is how to welcome pure devotees like Vidura and Narad Muni. They were welcomed when they entered the kingdom of Yudhishthira Maharaj. Then secondly, how Vidura is chastising Dhrtarastra. Very, very strong words. He's just killing all the expectations and all the attachments of Dhrtarastra. He was old, he was retired, he was lost the war, but still he was attached to the kingdom and still he was staying with Yudhishthira Maharaj. And the third thing that we are right now learning is how Narad Muni is helping Yudhishthir to come out of lamentation. So that is the third thing that this chapter describes. So far, Narad Muni is Yudhishthir Maharaj, despite of being a Mahajan, right? He is still so compassionate, but he's also very attached to how he's gonna help all this, his uncle, his aunt, and his two uncles, Dhritarashtra and Vidura. But Narad Muni has come to rescue. Narad Muni is telling that how he should not lament. Why he should not lament? Because Yudhishthir has, even despite being a pure devotee of the Lord, despite being a Mahajan, and he is a king, so he is still thinking that he is the protector of his uncles and aunt, Gandhari. So he's saying, no, they are old people, they are elderly, and my uncle is blind, my aunt is blindfolded, and Vidura is also, he's a devotee and he's also elderly. Who will take care of them? They have gone to the forest without telling anyone. Where are they? What are they doing? So he's just in this lamentation state. So Narad Muni is shattering all of his misconceptions. Narad Muni is telling, they have gone to forest. They are not on their own. They are at the will of Krishna. Everybody is at the will of Krishna. Everybody, if one surrenders, then Krishna comes and protects. Krishna comes and helps the devotee, or anyone for the matter. Whoever takes shelter of God, God is there to give everything which is necessary. So he provides what you need, not what you want. That is the lesson. But Yudhishthir Maharaj is still concerned. So Narad Muni is pacifying him. And along with those lines, Narad Muni also explains that how Krishna comes just for this purpose. He comes for paritranaya sadhanam vinashaya duskritam. So all the devotees, especially for devotees, he is there to give pleasure. And he has come to annihilate everybody. And also in text 50, he has given the hint that after you Pandavas may wait as long as the Lord is here on the earth. So that means the hint has been given that Lord Krishna's departure is near, which is the next chapter, text chapter 14 in first canto. So he is saying that, okay, you Pandavas, you can stay here as long as you like, but Lord Krishna is also going to depart, so you also start preparing, and this type of attachment is not going to help. So now he is explaining in text 51, Dhritarashtra saha bhrata Gandharya cha swabharaya dakshinena himavata rishinam arshamam gatah. O king, your uncle Dhritarashtra, his brother Vidura, and his wife Gandhari have gone to the southern side of the Himalaya mountains, where there are shelters of the great sages. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. To pacify mourning Maharaj Yudhishthir, Narad first of all spoke from the philosophical point of view, and then he began to describe the future movements of his uncle, which he could see by his foreseeing powers, and thus began to describe as follows. So here, very interestingly, Prabhupada says that Narad first spoke all from philosophical perspective. So, first, like about last 12 to 15 verses, Narad Muni is just trashing Yudhishthir Maharaj. He is giving him left, right and center, and he is telling Yudhishthir Maharaj to give up this sort of attachment and give up this mentality that you are the doer, you are the protector, and believe, have faith in Krishna, that those who have taken shelter of Krishna, they will do much better than what they can do under our shelter. So here, another this interesting thing is the philosophical point of view. Like, this is Narad Muni setting a trend that whenever in any situation, in any kind of situation, even Krishna, right, Arjuna had such a mental breakdown in the middle of war, but Krishna could have said, day one, first verse, Sarva Dharman Parityaja, Mam Ekam Sharanam Vraja. But no, he did not do that. He explained everything philosophically, that okay, you are not this body, you are the soul, and whoever taken birth in this body must die, whoever dies must take another body unless they perfect their lives. Then Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, he spoke about himself, and then the three modes of material nature. He explained everything philosophically. So it has also, because it's parampara line, so devotees also many times, any situation may come, devotees just jump onto philosophy. Like, okay, no, you are demigod, okay, here I know this verse is from Bhagavad Gita, this is what the understanding is, and then philosophically. But the real philosopher is the one who also understands the time, place, circumstances, and then based on how the other person's gonna receive. It is, Prabhupada also did that many times, where he would straight jump on philosophies, but sometimes he would understand and he would say, okay, this is what your situation is. He provides a solution appropriately. So this is Narad Muni here at this stage. Yudhishthira Maharaj, sometimes we also hear, right? Someone is lamenting, you first hear, you listen, you understand what they are going through, and then you give your solution if they want your solution. So here Narad Muni is done giving solution. Now he still understands that Yudhishthira Maharaj is still not convinced with my philosophical answers. So here he is saying, okay, forget everything I have said, let me tell you what is happening now. Your uncle and aunt are very nicely situated in the southern side of Himalaya mountains. And don't worry, if you think that they are on their own, no, they have taken shelter of great sages. So previously at that time, a lot of sages, they would go meditate in forest. These are Ashtanga yogis. They go to the forest. That's where they find their peace and and so this is separate from bhakti yoga. One more thing, those who are going and taking going in a forest and meditating in there. So that's text 51. Text 52. The place is called Saptashrota, divided by 7, because there the waters of the sacred Ganges were divided into 7 branches. This was done for the satisfaction of 7 great rishis. So very nicely, Narad Muni, the pure devotee of the Lord, is taking Yudhishthira Maharaj to a place where Yudhishthira Maharaj have not been there, but the uncles and Gandhari Devi, they are there. And it's the beauty of pure devotees, right? They take you to a different space just from their words. Even we can all see that, oh wow, there is a mountain they have gone to, and then there are great sages over there. Now there is river, this mother Ganga, who has divided herself into 7 branches. So these only pure devotees can do. If I say something and the mind is like not convinced, that sometimes we are focused, sometimes not, but when pure devotees speak, they can take you to so many places. And that's why so many nice pastimes, people still, the acharyas have spoken, given so many commentaries, right Prabhu, about Damodar Leela, about all the pastimes that Krishna has done in Vrindavan, Mathura, Dwarka, and devotees, they take so much pleasure and they celebrate all those pastimes. Why? Because the power, the acharyas have explained it so nicely that we feel like we are also part of that pastime. So it's a very important thing to also listen to those pure devotees very carefully. And also when we are reading, we should think of that, okay, this is Prabhupada is talking to us directly. Prabhupada is taking us to these places. But here in this context, Narad Muni is now taking Yudhishthira Maharaj to Himalayas. Text 53. On the banks of Saptashrota, Dhrtarastra is now engaged in beginning Ashtanga Yoga by bathing 3 times daily in the morning, noon and evening, by performing the Agnihotra sacrifice with fire and by drinking only water. This helps one control the mind and the senses and frees one completely from thoughts of familial affection. So here is one characteristics of what Ashtanga yogis do and why they do that. The yogis that they are trying to meditate on the Lord, they are trying to control their mind, they are trying to control their breathing, and they are trying to control their senses. How? By performing a very like living a very austere life, and then performing a lot of sacrifices. And this is, to control mind is no joke, I'm sure we all agree. And mind is always there to trouble us, despite of how many times we tell that if we control the mind can be our best friend or the worst enemy, the uncontrolled mind. But it's not that easy to control mind. So mind is pretty much always our worst enemy, pretty much always. Many times it happens, first thing in the morning, to get up on time, and the mind says 5 more minutes, and 5 more minutes becomes 1 hour. At least to me that happens. So mind is, it's just not possible to control the mind without controlling the senses. And Prabhupada says in the purport, at the end of the purport, he says that a man who has no control over the tongue at first can hardly become a yogi. So even in the senses there are hierarchies. In Nectar of Instruction it is said that atihara prayasascha prajalpa niyamagaha. No, the first verse is vacho vegam manasa krodha vegam jiva vegam udarapastha vegam etan veganyo vishaheta diya sarvam abhimam prithvim sasishyat. So there Rupa Goswami is also telling that first controlling the tongue is such an important sense, because from tongue one can also control the speech as well as the food, the eating habits. And once that is controlled, that's why tongue, belly and genitals are in one line. And if tongue is controlled, then pretty much everything is controlled. And so in the purport, Prabhupada is explaining different ways yoga meditation can be helpful, but also how there are things around us that can take us away from our determination to become a yogi, a practitioner of bhakti yoga. So here a very interesting thing in the purport, Prabhupada is saying that the yoga system is a mechanical way to control the senses and mind and divert them from matter to spirit. The preliminary process are the sitting posture, meditation, spiritual thoughts, manipulation of air passing within the body, and gradual situation in trance, facing the absolute person, Paramatma. So Prabhupada is saying that this type of yoga system is very mechanical. You don't have to think of lot of things, and you don't have to worry about the situation around you. It's a very mechanical thing. You keep doing it until you perfect it. And it is completely opposite in bhakti yoga. In bhakti yoga it is spontaneous, it is done out of love, and the stages are bhava. We are talking of bhava and prema. But this Ashtanga yoga system, that is a mechanical process. So in the yoga ladder also, Ashtanga yoga comes just before bhakti yoga. And why? Because after this stage it is easier to come to the platform of coming at the platform of loving Krishna, loving God, or showing our bhava, our prem. So but it doesn't mean that one has to go through these mechanical process to achieve that bhakti yoga platform. One can directly go. Prabhupada has given wonderful process of chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Prabhupada has given wonderful scriptures. Very painstakingly he has translated all these books for what? For all of us to directly go to bhakti yoga process without worrying about how easy. It doesn't sound so easy that the process is to in the sitting posture, meditation, spiritual thoughts, manipulation of air passing within the body. It's I don't think it's that easy. It's I haven't met or heard anyone who have. I'm sure there are folks in the world right now who can do this, who can control the air within their body. I can only control until my nostrils. After that, I have no control. So It's I'm not sure if it's possible for everyone, but Bhakti Yoga is easy, quick, and so easily accessible, and very minimum rules and regulations. And those rules regulations are also not to become a perfect devotee. It's just to become a human being. No meat eating, no gambling, no illicit sex, and no intoxication. These are just to come at the human stage, and then chanting Hare Krishna can take you back home, back to Godhead. So that's the process Prabhupada is explaining about Ashtanga Yoga. Then after that, Prabhupada is saying that material existence means to be absorbed in the material objective, which is simply illusory. House, country, family, society, children, property, and business are some of the material coverings of the spirit, Atma, and the yoga system helps one to become free from all these illusory thoughts and gradually turn towards the absolute person, Paramatma. So we can see that the last line of the translation of this verse, Krishna is saying, Narad Muni is telling to Yudhishthir Maharaj, Narad Muni, he is saying that this helps one control mind and the senses and frees one completely from thoughts of familial affections. So these yogis, how they do it, now we know. What they do it, we know. But why they do it? To come over their attachments and affections that's keeping them away from the self-realization. So again, there is a very big difference in Ashtanga Yoga. You have to, it's like a forceful thing that one has to give certain, if you have to do it so that you can give things up, these familial affections. But now we are talking about those who are actually at the very high stage of Ashtanga Yoga. But in Bhakti Yoga, one doesn't have to give things up. One can dovetail everything in the service of the Lord. So that is the beauty of it. You still keep, and Krishna will help you how one can move from attachment to material objectives to making them our spiritual help. And Prabhupada continues, by material association and education, we learn simply to concentrate on flimsy things, but yoga is a process of forgetting them altogether. So it's a very obvious thing that why Prabhupada is saying that this material association and education is flimsy. It is not concrete, it is not permanent, it is very temporary, and it's, if one is attached so much to that, Hare Krishna Vasanta Mataji, if one is so attached, then how can they lose their attachment? By adopting to yoga process. And modern so-called yogis and yoga systems manifest some magical feasts, and ignorant persons are attached by such false things, or they accept the yoga system as a cheap healing process for disease of the gross body. Now this is again very obvious thing. I'm not sure if anyone have seen like such acts. People are converting to different faith, different religions, because they are like showing that there is some diseased person and they are doing some chanting some mantra, some hymns, and that person is now cured, or they are possessed by some demoniac spirits, and this is all happening. And I have seen so many videos in India. People are like just saying that, okay, you believe in this, and then see how this person has been fixed, we will fix you also. So that is just like Prabhupada is saying that ignorant persons, they are attracted to such things. But what, and especially that's what I appreciate, that in ISKCON and in this Krishna conscious movement, the focus is more on education, the spiritual understanding of who God is, who we are, how can we become self-realized, not by showing some miracles and all these magical feats. That is not a part of the process. It's a very scientific process, and one can logically and practically prove it. So Prabhupada is definitely condemning that. And Prabhupada is saying that by the grace of his younger brother Vidura, Dhritarashtra was enlightened and could see his grossly illusory engagements, and by such enlightenment he was able to leave home for spiritual realization. Now, very important point. If one takes shelter of a pure devotee and one takes instructions of a pure devotee by heart, one can that is the start of the journey to self-realization, the spiritual realization. And here Dhritarashtra is showing that. So towards the end, Prabhupada is explaining that how a man who has no control over the tongue at first can hardly become a yogi. So like we discussed earlier, that how by controlling the senses one can control the mind, and once the mind is controlled, one can break their bondages, their attachments to material things and the so-called material objectives. But one has to control the tongue, that is the beginning. And atihara prayasascha, so overeating is one of the obstacles in the path of bhakti, in the path of devotional service, and one must control. It's not a suggestion or it's not a recommendation, it's an instruction to eat only what you need and controlling the tongue. And Prabhupada is saying here, yogi and bhogi are two opposite terms. The bhogi, or the merry man who eats and drinks, cannot become a yogi. This is hitting so hard to me because I can definitely, and you all can also tell that I'm not a yogi at all, I'm a bhogi. And I heard from His Grace Kalakana Prabhu in a week ago, that he explained that how there is this about how passing stool, that is also in Vedas explained. There are certain characteristics, and how if one passes stool a day is called a yogi, one passes stool twice a day is called a bhogi, and one who does 3 times is a rogi, a diseased. So this just reminded me of that how Prabhupada is also saying it has to be restricted. A yogi is never allowed to eat and drink unrestrictedly. And we may note with profit how Dhritarashtra began his yoga system by drinking water only and sitting calmly in a place with a spiritual atmosphere, deeply absorbed in the thoughts of Lord Hari, the personality of Godhead. Very important here. Dhritarashtra, we have seen how Dhritarashtra was before, and now his life has completely changed. And he is now drinking just water at such old age and no vision. And he is only on water diet, and he has very intelligently created a spiritual atmosphere. Very good note for us that everyone should have their own spiritual atmosphere, either at home, at work, or somewhere where they can go and they can forget all the problems and they focus on their spiritual practices. At home or in a room somewhere, just keep some sacred space where you can chant and pray and then read. So there are so many things one can do. So it's very important to have that atmosphere around us. So far, any thoughts, any questions, or any comments? Chanakya Pani Prabhu? Any thoughts on how to become not a bhogi?
As the parts we read before reminds us that Krishna always comes through. In the real sense, Krishna always comes through. All the time. The only problem we have is just that we are keeping Krishna out all the time. We are trying to keep Krishna out all the time. Krishna always coming to see. Yudhishthira Maharaj had an illusion, was confused in terms of the whereabouts of his uncles. And then Immediately Narada Muni came. That is Krishna's doing. Krishna actually somehow induced Narada Muni to come in order to clear his doubts and to pacify him also in that instance. So any sincere person who really wants to come to Krishna, Krishna will certainly make all the arrangements for him to come to him. No impediment at all. Krishna will provide everything, all the facilities, both the spiritual master, both the books, both the environment, everything. Krishna will provide. You see, so not really becoming Krishna conscious, it's all our making. It's our constant effort to try to push Krishna aside, in that sense. Because Krishna is very eager to let us come to him. Very eager to let us. So any small step we make towards him, he actually accelerates it. He makes it more expedient to come to us, in that sense. So you can just see that particular incident. The uncles left. Vidura was confused, and immediately Narada Muni came to clarify whatever the situation is there. So anytime we're also confused, we should take shelter of Krishna. Krishna will suddenly come through. He will come through. There's no question of Krishna not coming through, in all the situations. Sometimes we'll create impediments by some kind of material arrangements and all that. We create impediments actually. Krishna is coming through. Krishna is always available. Always. Because he's the closest person to us. But because of our desires, wrong desires and aspirations, we're keeping Krishna out all the time, in that sense. So to the process, Maharaj Dhrtarastra is following the process of Ashtanga Yoga and all that. It's also similar to the process of Bhakti Yoga. The only difference is that in the Ashtanga Yoga, one had to more or less depend on one's efforts. One had to be highly qualified in the manner of knowledge, in the manner of austerity, determination, so many things. One had to really become very much qualified. But in the part of devotional service, Bhakti Yoga, Lord Krishna makes himself more available to the practitioners. He tried to compensate our deficiencies. He tried to help in different ways. Just like a child trying to crawl, the parents always try to see how to help. So that's the difference. In the part of devotional service, Lord Krishna is more mercifully inclined to those who are on the part of devotional service, and therefore he helps so much. Little efforts to make, he helps. That is why in this Kali Yuga that we are so much fallen. We hardly can think about Ashtanga Yoga system apart from the devotional service. And even in this instance, the chanting of the holy name of the Lord. Anyone can do that. Despite our situation, despite our conditions, we can always chant the holy names of the Lord. Still, the most required quality is that one had to be sincere. One had to be sincere in chanting the holy names of the Lord. If one is not sincere, one is defeated right from the beginning of it. You see, one sincere purpose in devotional service, and also one service attitude, that is willingness to try to do things that Krishna could be pleased. Then everything comes. Krishna make available all the resources we require to actually make progress in the part of devotional service. So that is one thing that is very important. Hare Krishna.
Yes. Thank you, Prabhu. Very nicely explained that how I was actually thinking. Prabhupada also says that how it is monkey versus cat. That how in Ashtanga Yoga, it's like monkeys, the baby monkey have to grab onto the mother, and depend on its own strength. Mother will keep running. Mother will not check or like keep the hand over the monkey's baby, right? But the cat is like, will in using the mouth, will pick up the kitten and will travel. So it's like that, Bhakti Yoga versus Ashtanga Yoga. So thank you, Prabhu, for bringing that up. And yeah, very nicely said. I was also thinking that how it is, even though these it comes across as like, oh, Ashtanga yogi, oh, these are like yogis, meditators, we are bhakti yogis, we are superior, and this is like hard process. But no, even these people, the Dhritarashtra, he is worshipable. Here he is saying he has fully focused his mind and senses on Lord Hari, Prabhupada is saying. So even impersonalists whose goal is to merge into Krishna, they are also they are just attracted towards the impersonal Brahman, the Brahman aspect of Krishna, but they are not to be thought that they are inferior, and not of course there are stages, and the highest stage is prema, the bhakti stage, where they can have relationship with God, personal relationship, where you can pull dhoti of Krishna. But even these the yogis, the impersonal practitioners, they are also very advanced. They are very advanced, and the so-called impersonalists that we see, they are not even close to, like, their understanding is completely different. And here is an example of what the impersonal devotee looks like, and that will be confirmed in the following verses. So text 54 we will read. Hare Krishna Mataji. We are reading Canto 1, Chapter 13, text 55. Sorry, 54 now. Text 54. One who has controlled the sitting posture, the yogic asanas, and the breathing process can turn the senses toward the absolute personality of Godhead, and thus immune to the contaminations of the modes of material nature, namely mundane goodness, passion, and ignorance. Very nice, the attributes that the yogis have. What they have to do first is control the sitting posture, right? Then number 2, control the breathing process. Then number 3 is pratyahara. Yes.
Pratyahara means looking inwards.
Looking inwards.
Reversing the senses from external to internal.
And then, yes, the third is turning their senses toward the absolute personality of Godhead. So it's, even like these things we are also doing, right? Or we are supposed to do.
No, we're doing
While japa, right?
We're doing it, but it is not expressive like this. But all the things you still have to do, all this process you still have to follow, but it's not expressively
Right.
the way the yogis do it.
Right.
But the process has to be followed in terms of reversing the senses from the external world to the internal. Meditation begins after that, and then concentration, and then before samadhi. This is always, in the part of the devotional side, is also to experience this.
Yes, very nicely put, because Prabhupada is saying the same thing. The preliminary activities of the way of yoga are asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dhyana, dharana, etc. Maharaj Dhrtarastra was to attain success in preliminary actions because he was seated in a sanctified place and was concentrating upon one objective, namely the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari. So, perfect. That's what it's like. Even in our japa meditation, it is sometimes not that obvious, but this is also the process that we are following, that we are supposed to sit in a proper posture, not like sleeping on the couch or on the bed and then chanting or doing our japa, right? Dravida Prabhu told 5 P's. The first P is, anyone knows? 5 P's of japa? preparing night before so that our morning is prepared. Then posture, then pronunciation, purity, prayer. Yes, at the end we pray.
Sachidanandan Swami made it into 7 P's.
Oh yeah, please share 2 more.
I need to sit back and remember.
Oh, yeah, but
It's changed a few.
but these 5 are there plus 2,
No,
or
it's
there's
some different ones.
okay. So yeah, Dravida Prabhu shared these 5 P's for successful japa, and same thing like this, you know. So it's a very it works, and it definitely, here Prabhupada is saying the bhakti yoga process therefore directly applies the senses to the loving service of the Lord. After all these things, ultimately what? It is for Krishna. It is to serve Krishna. So that is the point. And so text 55. Now this is also another important very important verse that ultimately shows that why Dhritarashtra is such a elevated soul. So here, after doing all the tapasya, after doing Dhritarashtra, you know, sitting at the banks of Ganges near southern part of Himalaya, and only drinking water at such an old age, focusing fully on Hari. Now what will happen? Here Narad Muni is saying, Dhritarashtra will have to amalgamate his pure identity with intelligence and then merge into the Supreme Being with knowledge of his qualitative oneness as a living entity, the Supreme Brahman. Being freed from the blocked sky, he will have to rise to the spiritual sky. So Narad Muni, with his vision, he is predicting that what is going to happen. This is his what is the word? This is like, you know, they say what's going to happen, right? So here Narad Muni is saying that what will happen? Dhritarashtra, first of all, he is gonna come, you know, to the stage where he will know his pure identity, and then with intelligence he will merge into the Supreme Lord. So this is why the Ashtanga Yogi's goal is to merge ultimately to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the impersonal Brahman. And here Dhritarashtra's goal is that. So Prabhupada says very nicely, we should read the purport of this, very important. The living being, you want to read?
Okay.
Yeah.
And I found those 7 P's. It is actually these 5 plus the other 2 are period of the day.
Period of the day.
And pointed attention.
Pointed attention.
Ekagra chitta.
Okay, wonderful. 5 P's plus period of the day and then pointed attention.
Yeah. What is period of the day? Like the Brahma, importance of Brahma Muhurta. It cannot be just any time of the day. It has like, it's more effective if it is done during the Brahma Muhurta. So 54 purpose.
No, 55. Yes, please.
Purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
The living being, by his desiring to lord it over the material world and declining to cooperate with the Supreme Lord, contacts the sum total of the material world, namely the Mahat Tattva, and from the Mahat Tattva, his false identity with the material world, intelligence, mind, and senses is developed. This covers his pure spiritual identity. By the yogic process, when his pure identity is realized in self-realization, one has to revert to the original position by amalgamating the 5 gross elements and the subtle elements, mind and intelligence, into the Mahat Tattva again. Thus, getting freed from the clutches of the Mahat Tattva, he has to merge in the existence of the Super Soul. In other words, he has to realize that qualitatively he is not different from the Super Soul, and thus he transcends the material sky by his pure identical intelligence, and thus becomes engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. This is the highest perfectional development of spiritual identity, which was attained by Dhrtarastra by the grace of Vidura and the Lord. The Lord's mercy was bestowed upon him by his personal contact with Vidura, and when he was actually practicing the instructions of Vidura, the Lord helped him to attain the highest perfectional stage.
So here, very interesting, right? Prabhupada is saying that this is the highest perfectional stage. And also, so Dhrtarastra, his ultimate end was that he merged into the Supreme Brahman. He was an impersonalist, and then ultimately he merged into in Brahma Jyoti. So here Prabhupada he's convinced that Dhritarashtra is pure devotee, and Dhritarashtra was a pure devotee. It's just his goal was different. And Prabhupada is saying, what is the goal? What was the goal and what he realized? He realized that qualitatively there is no difference. There was only difference in quantity. And all, using the intelligence, he has to be engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. This is the highest perfectional stage. So how Dhritarashtra was engaged in the pure loving devotional service? He followed the instructions of a pure devotee, Vidura. Vidura said, get out, and he got out. He did not say, no, I'm still going to stay here. So just following the instructions, he is considered as a pure devotee of the Lord. And that's what Prabhupada explains, that, why? Which was attained by Dhritarashtra by the grace of Vidura and the Lord, and Lord's mercy bestowed upon him by his personal contact with Vidura. That was the only qualification that he had. Otherwise, he has not what he has done throughout his life, right? Just trying to snatch as much as possible and try to, he participated in all the bad things that happened to Pandavas. And there is no, like Draupadi, everyone who participated had to die. But Dhritarashtra was also in the side of a Kaurava, but he became a pure devotee. Why? Just because he followed the instruction of a pure devotee. And here it's not said, Dhritarashtra spiritual master. No, a pure devotee. Sometimes the attachment to my spiritual master is so much. Spiritual masters are there, but there are also pure devotees whose instructions are so powerful. The moment we get to serve a pure devotee, we should not wait. Just go serve, take as many instructions as possible, because ultimately they are all talking about the absolute, truth, absolute person, right? How can it be wrong? So here that was the qualification, and that's why Dhritarashtra is considered as pure devotee. Please continue.
A pure devotee of the Lord does not live on any planet of the material sky, nor does he feel any contact with material elements. His so-called material body does not exist, being surcharged with the spiritual current of the Lord's identical interest, and thus he is permanently freed from all contaminations of the sum total of the Mahat Tattva. He is always in the spiritual sky, which he attains by being transcendental to the sevenfold material coverings by the effect of his devotional service. The conditioned souls are within the coverings, whereas the liberated soul is far beyond the cover.
So this last paragraph, I was thinking of how the difference between Nitya Siddhas and Nitya Baddhas. Those who are under the modes of material nature, those who are affected by these illusory energies, they are called Nitya Baddhas. They are covered by this material matter. But those who are pure souls, they are beyond. They are beyond this material sky. Prabhupada is saying that they are not from this planet. They don't live on the planet of this material sky, and they don't feel any contact of material elements. So it is also that faith and conviction that these pure devotees which we have around us, we should not take them as just ordinary living entities, right? They are pure devotees. No matter which ashram they are in, or no matter what is their age, and it's after that conviction and that faith, one is sure to find Krishna by following their instructions, by serving them, by following their footsteps. So it is also given here, and just amazing, how Krishna's mercy is just flowing so much to all these wonderful people, and especially Dhritarashtra. It's like, full 180 degree. Before he was such a, it is Mahabharata, he is not glorified. In Mahabharata, he's demoniac, right?
Actually, when you look at Dhritarashtra's life,
Yes.
Dhritarashtra actually was like an instrument used by the Lord. He was partially aware and partially not aware. This was some kind of yoga maya, actually. Not that Dhritarashtra is just an ordinary person, not an ordinary person. Highly advanced. In most cases, when Lord Krishna, he talks to Lord Krishna, he agrees that what you're saying is true. He knows that Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality of God. But he has to do what he has to do. He had to make sure that, he fulfills Lord Krishna's desire of having the war to be fought. If Dhritarashtra had acted otherwise, the war would not have been fought. The mission of the Lord. So he was really aware of Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But by Yoga Maya, he was like, sometimes in an illusion as if in the Maya and all that kind of stuff. So even on materially speaking, a person from like Dhritarashtra, who was the emperor of the world, you know what it means? To have the pious credit to become the emperor of the world, you know what it is? So he's not an ordinary person at any particular point in time. Also a great devotee, and also being surrounded by pure devotees. Not also another for having a brother who is a pure devotee of the Lord, having the association of great pure devotees, Narada Muni, all of them, they are coming to this place, and so many things. Bhishma Dev is there, who is this, So they are just playing some games, and then we should just see them like that. That is why Lord Krishna came to his rescue at the last point of his life. Came out to rescue through Vidura, through the Muni, and through himself. Lord Krishna actually, came to take him away from the material existence. So, sometimes when we look at these scenes, we should just see it as, Krishna's, arrangements or Krishna's pastimes, going on like that. And Krishna's pastimes also going on, constantly going on, even at present days. So many things happening. Only that at the present moment we will not be able to see the great picture. We will not be able to see the clear picture of what is happening. So when it is explained in the scripture like this, then we can understand some of the things that happen. But when it is happening, you cannot see beyond the immediate activities of the people. And then in most cases, sometimes become judgmental, oh, this person like this person like that, this person like that. But in the real sense, it is beyond what we can see. Lord Krishna is a great actor, and he's doing so many things simultaneously, and then acting the way he wants the things to be done, especially when it concerns his pure devotees. He takes direct charge of their lives, their activities, and then that is why this Dhritarashtra, despite what happened, he was liberated from material existence.
Mohan, you want to add something? So that was my point also, that how, like Dhritarashtra, he had to do so many things, now again under the will of Krishna and for the pleasure of Krishna, but he did not do so many things right, and he did not stop, Draupadi's the humiliation. He did not stop killing of Pandavas. He did not stop. In fact, after the war, he tried to kill Bhima. He tried to kill Bhima. So, right now, still, if Krishna wants, even the person like him can be liberated. If Krishna wants. And sometimes we wonder, what happened to Jagai Madai, demons, but still they got liberated. Of course, they have the backstory, how they are different. But just from the example point of view and in the context is that, even though these people, we all were in spiritual world at some point. So Krishna have the soft spot for all of us. Correct, Ujjwal Nitai? So it is just a matter of, Prabhupada says, so how do we understand why Krishna picks these personalities and just say, okay, yeah, you did not do your entire life, in the service of Krishna, still you get the mercy. Jagai Madai also, still you get the mercy. So many examples are there. Putna also, you get the mercy. Everyone gets the mercy. Why? what will happen to us? We are trying so hard, or we think we are trying so hard. Krishna, when will that mercy come to us?
It's a Sukriti.
Yeah, Krishna's mercy, there is no Sukriti, right? Krishna's mercy fall.
We don't know their past versus our past.
Yes.
Now when Prabhupada came here on Western devotee, first they are religious and later when they following very nicely everything, they thought how come that come to us? We were coming from that background like no, meat eater, beef eater. The Prabhupada told, I create your Sukriti. That's what Prabhupada told me that I create your fortunate. But I have a question now, just two questions came in my mind. Why Vidura choose the impersonal Brahman? That is one question. Another question, who he was last, like past life, like somebody do, he come to play the role. Thank you. He come to play the role of this negative thing against some Krishna. Who he was? Like in Golok Vrindavan, what is his position that he came to play this? Sometimes we can read it all life, but we don't know he may become to
Right.
help Krishna.
Yeah, so at least I don't know the exact answers to both of the questions, I have to be honest. But what I know is that this was the start of his bhakti life. Same way as Bharat Maharaj. Bharat Maharaj also, he, like at the last moment something else happened which was beyond the fate of a pure devotee, but still that was the start of his bhakti life. So I don't know what was his past life or the future life, but it is said that this was, after this is his journey to pure devotional service, pure bhakti yoga.
Is that
Right. No, yeah, so from this point, so this is not the liberation. So we know from Brahmajyotir, he will fall down. But then again after he comes back, his pure devotional service journey starts. But I don't know who he was in the past and why he chose I think that is also explained in the previous verses. Why? I haven't read or I don't remember, but I think I heard that in the previous verses it is described that how he was more and why. It's like, those demons, like, when they are beyond, their, like, the pure devotional service, like, not they're doing their best job in bhakti, Krishna still shows them the mercy. And this is how, like, okay, you haven't done, so at least you go to Brahmajyoti. There you will find your peace, solace, and then you come back and now you will be pure. Because who can go to Brahmajyoti? Those who have controlled their senses, control their mind, then whose mind is always fixed on Krishna, right? That is a different story, that their mind is fixed on the impersonal Brahman aspect of Krishna, but it is still Hari, right? Even the Brahmajyotir is Hari. So it's not like wrong, but it is not permanent. It is not the perfection. So they are still, it is a part of their journey. Ashtanga yogis, their journey is like that. That from Brahman realization, they come to Paramatma realization. They again come back, perform pure devotional service, and then they have Bhagwan realization. So Bhagwan realization have all this included automatically. Brahman, Paramatma is already included. So for him, but yeah, it's a good question.
Yesterday, when you read yesterday, what did you tell me? Tell me what you read in Parvati Brahma, what you say? Tell me what you say.
Brahma is like Krishna gave him so much powers. Like he's like, here's tree, mountain, river, and Brahma is like, okay, but Krishna, please bless me so that I don't become proud with all my powers.
And then what I read that like I hear also like he said that Bhakti Pushita Maharaj told even Bhagavatam also told Prabhupada that the Brahmajyoti is a spiritual society. Okay, it's called spiritual society.
Spiritual society.
Yeah, the Brahmajyoti. And then they told the four fund of knowledge. They are choose this one because they do severe austerity compared to us. Brahmajyoti, those who want to go Sarvajya Mukti. We have comfortable, Krishna conscious, because they not add devotional service in their life. Their mission in their life to be one with the Lord. And for that they do different kind of austerity, civil, but not comfortable life like. But what is the difference between them and devotee? Devotee life is comfortable. They do devotional service. Everything they have. They're servant mode. And Brahmajyoti, they were one with the Lord, means they were to be the Lord. And I also hear in class, Brahmajyoti is so strange. You know, they go there and after some time they don't like because nothing to do.
Like void.
Yeah, quiet and then nothing to do and how much people can stay without doing any activity. And when they desire, then they have to, from far away they falling down in this earth. That's the reason they become stone. And that this jewelry, what we wear and this, all this is a, this is this stone. That is coming from Brahmajyoti. And this is like what we wearing, you know. So mercifully I understand if this jewelry put to Krishna or used for devotional service or devotee, whatever they wear, they offer to Krishna, then they wear, right? And that way they go to Krishna. And that is a long path and so painful to hear that the from far away therefore they become a stone. Because anything come down from very far, this, you know, what is there?
The purport of next verse also Prabhupada says something very similar. What exactly is Brahmajyoti, or like what happened to Dhrtarastra? So Dhrtarastra had attained by the yogic process the stage of negation of all sorts of material reaction. So those were desirers of these things, right? I don't want any happiness, but I also don't want any sadness. I don't want any good, or I don't want any bad. They want to be on zero stage. So there are people, the effects of modes of meditation draw the victim to indefatigable desires of enjoying matter, but no one can escape such false enjoyment of the yogic process. Every sense is always busy. And that's why even after going to Brahmajyoti, their senses are still like looking, okay, what are we supposed to do? And after some point, Prabhupada says, or like I have heard from devotees, that it's like Brahmajyoti is a stage of the plane in the air. It cannot stay in the air forever, it has to land. But it also doesn't go in the space. It's like it goes to at some stage, it stays there, but then it doesn't feel natural. So then they come down. So
it's like they're so much wasting their time. They're doing so much austerity to go to Brahmajyoti.
but for them, it's easier to become self-realized, like in Bhakti Yoga process, because they have already seen Paramatma. How can they be lower? They have seen Paramatma.
Right.
That's why they merge into Brahmajyoti, right?
Yeah.
Because they have had darshan of Paramatma in their hearts. That's what their goal was, to realize Brahman and to see Paramatma face to face.
And that is yogi doing.
Impersonalists.
Impersonally, they like the light and going in the light. But yogi, you see the Bhagavad Gita, you see seriously, they see the Paramatma. There's three kinds of impersonal also.
Yes.
Three kinds of impersonal. One is yogi who is looking Paramatma, but we cannot tell them impersonal who looking Paramatma. That is, he believe in the form and he see the form of Krishna in their heart. So they are not impersonal.
Correct.
They are not impersonal. Yogi are Paramatma looking in the heart is they looking and they meditating on it. That is what's happening.
Brahmavadi and Mayavadi. These two I heard.
I saw three of them. One is this Brahmajyoti, one is a yogi, and the highest one is transcendental devotee. These three things I saw in the Bhagavad. One is that they have no form, they just in the light. Another one is meditating on the Paramatma, and third one is putting transcendental loving service to Krishna. Three times. That's what I saw. But the yogi will not tell them, but they are Brahmajyoti. Because they are not in the light, they are on the form of Krishna, singing. Basically three kind of yogis.
I have heard that for them it gets easier because they have, it's like, those who have finished their grad studies, for them it's easier to go to PhD. Versus those who are just doing their high school and going to PhD directly. So for them it is easier because they have attained this stage, at least even those Mayavadis also, so Brahmavadis are who wants to merge into Brahmajyoti knowing there is a personal form of Krishna. Those who are aware that, okay, there is Paramatma, there is Bhagwan, there is Brahman, but still I want to just go to the Brahman. I want to go to Brahmajyoti. That is called Brahmavadis. Then Mayavadis are those, I deny. God is formless, doesn't have any attributes, doesn't have any body. I am only convinced that only Brahma Jyotir is the only. They are called Mayavadis. So that's the two different type of Mayavadis. Prabhupada explains. In Science of Self-Revelation, he's explaining this. Okay.
So in the verse 55, there is a word qualitative added in the translation. But in the original Sanskrit, where is that term? Oneness with the Supreme.
So,
In text 55, Prabhupada is saying that it's qualitative oneness, but in Sanskrit verse, it just says oneness. It doesn't specify that it's only qualitatively one.
But they both tell you one is oneness. Quantitative oneness or one is the same thing, right?
No, Prabhupada is making a distinction that it's only qualitatively one.
qualitatively oneness as a living entity with the Supreme. So it is obvious, right, that we are qualitatively same as Krishna. Quantitatively we are different. So even in the purport also in the middle, Prabhupada is saying that in other words, he has to realize that qualitatively he is not different. That is the prerequisite to become, to merge. Even to merge, one has to understand that there is no difference between God and me qualitatively. We are the same. What is the quality? Sat Chit Ananda Vigraha. So we are eternal, Krishna is also eternal. We are all knowledgeable. We just have forgotten, in the after being contaminated. And Ananda, the soul is always ever happy. Same as Krishna. But then there are more attributes to Krishna that we can't have. Like he can see past, present, future, we can't. And so there are different, it's also said, right, that ocean and the drop of ocean, the qualitatively they are same. But the shark cannot live in the drop of ocean. It needs the ocean itself. So quantitatively it's different. So whenever there is the comparison, qualitatively we are always same. Krishna also says, in Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada says that we are like tiny Krishna, little Krishna. Why? Because we are qualitatively same.
I think this is based on the Achintya Veda Ved, but there is also based on the Vedas who say that there is no Ved.
Yes, yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there is no difference. Why? Because we are qualitatively same, one and the same.
No, but in the other path, they don't say that it's only qualitatively, it's just overall.
Oh, we are just same, quantitatively, qualitatively. In other path, meaning Mayavadi, staying personal. Okay. Yeah, it's possible because
they also use the same Vedic scriptures.
Correct.
It's the interpretation that differs.
Yeah, I haven't read. So they say that it's same.
Yeah.
Not qualitative.
Like the goal is to merge. Because in Buddhism also that is what is taught. That we are all the universe is within us and we are the universe.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, it's a good subject to dive in. I'm not sure if I have so much of knowledge on impersonalism, but these are the two things I have heard. That just Brahmavadis, Mayavadis, and what happens to them and why they come back.
Yeah, we don't need so much knowledge about impersonalism.
Right.
Because if you go digging, you're just wasting time, and we don't, because we are not interested in that, right?
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also says, right?
Yeah, no need to put too much knowledge. Okay, we don't like it, we take it here, Hare Krishna. Just focus on what transcendental service.
Yeah, we don't want to.
Otherwise, just wasting time, and our mind is so tricky. Maybe he was saying that try that also. So I don't think so much about that. Of course, for preaching you can do little bit, but it's just wasting time.
So we have 3 more verses. Let's quickly go through that. So we can. That's the end of this chapter. It's already 9:15, but let's finish it off quickly. So after it is said, right, that what is going to happen to Dhrtarastra, Narad Muni is continuing to say that he will have to suspend all the actions of the senses, even from the outside, and will have to be impervious to interactions of the senses which are influenced by the modes of material nature. After renouncing all the material duties, he must become immovably established and beyond all sources of hindrance on the path. And in the purport, Prabhupada is explaining that how Dhritarashtra had attained, the topmost, like whatever the impersonalist can attain, he has achieved that, and he knows what to do next, and he must become immovably established. His body should not move. Think about it, how difficult. And here also not just that, but Narad Muni is saying, and all sources of hindrances on the path also should be avoided. Nobody should go and disturb him. So you also, Yudhishthira, that you have this compassion, so-called compassion for your uncle. Don't worry, he is on his path and he doesn't need any hindrances. He doesn't want any distractions. So Yudhishthira is like, he wants to bring him back, take care of his blind uncle who is old, retired, but Narad Muni stopped him completely. Do not do that. And text 57. But right, still after that also Arjuna is still like worried that, my God, really? My uncle is now gonna go in like this samadhi stage, and then what is gonna happen? Right? So Narad Muni is saying, okay, I'll tell you. O king, he will quit his body most probably on the 5th day from today, and his body will turn to ashes. Narad Muni's prophecy prohibited Yudhishthira Maharaj from going to the place where his uncle was staying, because even after quitting the body by his own mystic power, Dhritarashtra would not be in need of any funeral ceremony. Yudhishthira Maharaj is compassionate, right? He is saying, okay, family rights, what about after he dies, samadhi, then we have to go and cremate his body, right? It's my duty, as all his sons are dead, so it's my duty. He is not forgetting his duty. Narad Muni is saying, don't worry. He is such a mystic yogi and he has attained liberation that because of that, not only he will quit his body on this specific day, but also you don't have to worry about his dead body. His body will automatically turn into ashes. It will burn automatically. So Narad Muni indicated that his body by itself would burn to ashes. The perfection of the yoga system is attained by such mystic powers. The yogi is able to quit his body by his own choice of time and can attain any planet he desires by turning the present body into ashes by self-made fire. So, Hari Bol to Dhritarashtra. Dhritarashtra is on his way back home, back to Godhead. But then what about his wife, Gandhari Devi? Arjuna is now worried about her. My aunt, poor aunt, my uncle will die, but what about my aunt? What will happen to her? So Narad Muni is saying, don't worry. While outside observing her husband, who will burn into fire of mystic power along with his thatched cottage, his chaste wife will enter the fire with rapt attention. So for Gandhari also the duty is there. Now this is, the purport Prabhupada explains about sati right? Very sensitive in today's day and age. So now in this purport, Prabhupada, you can see how practical and what Prabhupada is such a pure devotee. He knows what is right, what is wrong based on time, place, circumstance. So Prabhupada is saying that Gandhari was an ideal chaste lady, a life companion of her husband, and therefore when she saw her husband burning in the fire of mystic yoga along with his cottage of leaves, she despaired. She left home after losing her 100 sons, and in the forest she saw that her most beloved husband was also burning. Now she actually felt alone, and therefore she entered the fire of her husband and followed her husband to death. Now very important line. The entering of a chaste lady into the fire of her dead husband is called the sati rite, and the action is considered to be the most perfect for a woman. So this is according to the Vedas or Vedic tradition, that the chaste wife, what it's supposed to do, what she is supposed to do after the husband is dead, Because she has dedicated her life to serve the husband, to please the husband, to help the husband to perfect his life. It's her, according to the Vedas, the most perfect is to enter the fire, right? Now, what Prabhupada's take on this, we all want to hear. So, in the later age, this sati rite became an obnoxious criminal affair because the ceremony was forced upon even an unwilling woman. Now, those women who didn't want to perform this rite, even they were forced to do this. So, Prabhupada is calling this obnoxious criminal affair. In this fallen age, it is not possible for any lady to follow the sati rite as chastely as it was done by Gandhari and others in the past ages. A chaste wife like Gandhari would feel the separation of her husband to be more burning than actual fire. Now, this is the principle behind it. Principle is not to go and die. Principle is that why they cannot live, because they're feeling so much separation that they find it that burning in the fire is better than feeling this separation. So that is the principle, and Prabhupada understands that. And Prabhupada is saying, such a lady can observe the sati rite voluntarily, those who are feeling that separation, and there is no criminal force by anyone. When the rite became a formality one only, and force was applied upon lady to follow the principle, actually it became criminal, and therefore the ceremony was to be stopped by the state law. This prophecy of Narad Muni to Maharaj Yudhishthir forbade him to go to his widowed aunt. So now Yudhishthir Maharaj is happy. Okay, uncle is done. He has turned his body into ashes. Wife is also becoming sati. And Prabhupada very clearly condemned. He is not approving of this sati rite, and especially forcing these Vedic principles in today's day and age, because the principle is lost. It's just happening due to formality, that we want to preserve our Vedic tradition, we forget all that, so we are forgetting. No, Prabhupada doesn't say that. So we don't hear that many times that a husband is feeling separation from wife and the husband is going in the fire, if the principle is to be followed, right? But we don't hear that. Why? Because materially, this is a very interesting topic, that materially men and women, like Purusha and Prakriti, right? This is how the distinguish is given in the Vedas. And it's like ascending and descending of the attachment. If the women are helping the husband, the wife is helping the husband in perfecting the life, that is the Vedic tradition. And the husband says, okay, I'm gonna do my best in devotional service. Not that now wife is completely surrendered, I can do my nonsense. No, that is also not true, not correct. So wife helps husband, husband becomes self-realized, they both go back to Godhead. That is the Vedic material law. Material law. And what about spiritual culture, right? Prabhupada, when Jamuna Devi, she sang Govindam Adi Purusham, right? And all the brahmacharis became very agitated that what? We are not supposed to listen to women. Why are you putting this so loud in the morning? Every morning we have to listen to women. That is not very agitating. Prabhupada very strongly, he said, whoever says that, whoever thinks that, they should take their bags, go to forest. Because they are not thinking from the spiritual point of view. If materially they want to perfect their life, they have to follow Vedic rules. You have to go to forest. But no, spiritually, if one has come to the platform of spiritual understanding, there is no difference between the women or the men. Same. They are all Prakritis. They are all understanding that Krishna is the only Purusha, we are supposed to be enjoyed. So, Prabhupada set so many examples. So sometimes the confusion and the whole controversy comes. Why? Because of the material culture is taken as a spiritual culture. Materially, whatever Vedic regulations, Vedic traditions have been followed, they are all like at the material platform. Spiritual platform, none of that applies. Prabhupada told so many of her female disciples to go and start the centers left and right. given so many authorities to the women. Why? Because Prabhupada is thinking from the spiritual platform. Very important. And here that's the reason Prabhupada is saying he doesn't endorse any of this sati right and any Vedic traditions. That's just followed because of formality. Simple, right? Any thoughts? Any thoughts, Charota or Mataji? No.
Yesterday I'm hearing the Chaitanya Chaitanya, the Guru was telling, like, look, if you come through preacher master, there will be so much benefitation you will get. Means so much easy to follow differently. But if you go direct to Krishna, it will be tough.
Yes.
Right. Like Chota Haridas used to serve Mahaprabhu, right? He baked and Mataji gave him the nice rice. That Mataji also pure devotee.
Correct.
But what is the false? Mahaprabhu eating that rice and he felt that he talked more than he need to talk as a brahmachari. And then Mahaprabhu don't want to see him. And every devotee requests, no, he don't, because he used to sing for Mahaprabhu. And then he gave up his body, then he came with this spiritual body and he sang for Mahaprabhu. Some devotee told, oh, he became Brahma ghost because he did suicide. But no, this is some different understanding. You know, not material way he went suicide. He did suicide because he didn't get the association of Krishna.
Correct.
So we have to do like, yeah, there is a facility with Mataji nowadays. Like you see now Brahmachari also talking with Mataji. But we have to be ourselves control. You know, we know where to go, how to go.
Right. Draw the boundaries.
This is on us. One devotee brahmachari talking with Mahaji in different way. One devotee talking with another brahmachari different way. It is totally depend on us.
Right.
And we should have honest.
Yes.
We should be honest and open our heart to it. Any nice devotee or spiritual master, they will guide us if we are confused.
Absolutely, yes. There is no one size fits all. That okay, I have to behave like this with another person, be it male or female. Everybody should behave like that. That is. It's so boring if the whole world is like that. And Prabhupada is another example. I heard in a recent class that I think you all must have heard or must be aware of this also, that how Prabhupada, when he first took his disciples, right, there were a lot of Matajis also. Mother Malti was there, and they all went to India. And Prabhupada's godbrothers and other sannyasis, Mayavadi sannyasis, they are all like telling Prabhupada that, you know, this is so bad that you are associating with Mataji so closely, you know, this is not good for your reputation. Prabhupada said, you stop what you're doing and you start following these Matajis, you will become liberated. You associated with these Matajis, they will take you back home, back to Godhead. So Prabhupada saw that, you know, it's not about the body, it's about how pure one is. So, okay, we can move on to the last final two verses very quickly. And now uncle is happily done, aunt is happily done. Now what happens to the spiritual uncle, like the pure devotee, Vidura? Narad Muni is saying, Vidura, being affected with delight and grief, will then leave that place of sacred pilgrimage. So Vidura, you know, now, oh yes, here Vidura, what he's feeling, Narad Muni is saying, he's feeling that he's being affected, right, with delight. He's very happy that no matter what happens, my brother and my sister-in-law, they are liberated now. They are in their spiritual journey. But he's also with grief. Why grief? Wouldn't we be happy if our families achieve the perfection?
They are separated from him.
Separation.
No, because he's a pure devotee. He's like connected to Krishna.
Brahma Jyoti, he does the reason.
Yes. He attained, through Ashtanga Yoga, he attained Brahma Jyoti, but he could not become the pure devotee. He did not get a pure bhakti. So that's why his grief is there. And, you know, then he moved on to his next. He did not think that, okay, now they are gone, my duty is done, I can go back home, back to Hastinapur, and I can live my life in peace. No. He said, no, I will now go to pilgrimage. He also went to the pilgrimage where? In Himalayas, the southern part of Himalayas. And There is a very nice line in the purport that he was sorry that he could not make his brother into a pure devotee. That's why he was in grief. And again shows the power of Vidura, like the quality of Vidura, pure devotee, that despite of their disciples or whoever is following this instruction, they want them to have the highest result, the best result for them. If not, then they are in grief. So the last verse. Having spoken thus, the great sage Narada, along with his Veena, ascended into outer space. Yudhishthir kept his instruction in his heart and so was able to get rid of all lamentations. So, following the instructions and keeping the instructions, having faith in Narad Muni, that okay, my uncle, aunt, everybody is all good, and he has come over all the lamentation. So, here Narad Muni is glorified in the purport. And Dhrtarastra, Gandhari, Vidura have attained the highest perfection, and Arjuna is very satisfied with this. And once the job is done, the pure devotees go away. They don't stay with them forever, right? So pure devotees' job is to just help the people, realize, come closer to Krishna, overcome their obstacles, and then once the job is done, they go. So Narad Muni is also showing that from the example. And thus ends the Bhakti Vedanta purport of first canto, 13th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Dhrtarastra quits home. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. I'm so sorry we are over time, but any final thoughts or comments, Mataji?
Probably okay, I'm late. I'm currently late.
Maybe that's why the class got late.
I take care of my case even to restroom.
You have any thoughts, final thoughts, Charita? Very tense chapter it was. And I think, I don't know how tense the disappearance. You have read, so you probably know how difficult it will be, this next chapter, disappearance of the Lord. Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.